seeing a cover slide to a PowerPoint that we're going to start with in a couple of minutes, so thank you for your patience. There's still some people joining the virtual room as we speak. But we'll be talking to Terrence Brown this morning.
Morning.
He's with LeeAgra. Hey, Terrence, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone.
And everyone is roughly 20 people in the room. This is a third webinar that we scheduled. We had enough requests that folks couldn't make the first two that we scheduled earlier last week, so we put this one together, and I think we're going to get roughly 30 folks, so it should be pretty fun.
Great.
And I'm really excited to be here today because I'm actually joining from Englewood, Colorado, which is where Intuit has its sales team based. I'm normally out of Mountain View, but with us also is Jen Luna. Jen, you want to say hi?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. I'm at my home base here in Colorado, so it's nice to be in the same room with Ed while we present.
Yep, instead of separate rooms. Terrence, we'll have to meet you in person at some point.
Well, that sounds good. I'm eager.
Yep, and fair to say that the image that we've got in front of us is one of your diesel trailers, but that's not you in the ball cap, right?
That's not me, no. I don't know. Inside baseball with marketing, we all use stock photos. That is definitely one of the diesel trailers, but that is, of course, an actor stock photo, that kind of thing. And using Photoshop magic, we put them behind there, and it's all. The diesel trailer, though, I did take that photograph. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to say, regardless of who that actor is, the diesel trailer looks great, which is
sure,
really the star of the image.
Absolutely.
And folks, with that, we are at the hour, so I will actually get us going. We've got a pretty meaty agenda today, so if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us for a replay, because we do cover quite a bit of material when we get to the demos, great to hear from you again. Just a couple of housekeeping things. We are using GoToWebinar to present and share with you, so you should see a control panel on your screen, and that's how we'll be doing some interaction with you. Basically, you can manage the interaction and responses through that. There's a question field that you can open up or maximize. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to type them in. We do have a moderator working with us in the background who will try and respond real time. Otherwise, we'll try to get to questions at the end of the session, or we'll field them personally after the webinar itself. We will also be kicking out some polls from time to time. And actually, maybe that's a good prompt for me, right? We've got about 28 people in the room. If we were all there in person, I would actually put this out there. It's just good to know, of everyone attending, are you a product-based business or a service-based business? If you don't mind just letting us know, clicking responses on the buttons that just popped up on your screen. I ask that because, Terrence, obviously you guys make farm and specialty equipment, but Salesforce does work for services as well, service-based businesses.
Well, I noticed there was a lot of things like maintaining contracts, and you can maintain licenses. It's very interesting. If we ever do maintain licenses, we're going to use Salesforce for that. So.
Yep. And we've got a pretty healthy response. We're at about 76%. I'll close the poll. Let me just share some results quickly. So we're about 40% product-based and 60% service-based today, which is kind of cool. And with that, let's jump into some content. So let me hide the results. Folks, the voices you're hearing today, that's me. On the left, I'm Ed Bondock. I work in product marketing for Intuit, and I manage the Salesforce.com partnership. And if you need to get in touch, you can find me through the email address in the lower left-hand corner of the slide, or you can find me through Twitter as well. That's my handle. Terrence, you've introduced yourself. Great to have you today, and you're doing some really interesting things with Salesforce for QuickBooks. So we're looking forward to seeing how you use the product and hearing some of the stories behind it. Jen, tell us a little bit about what you do with the sales team and with the marketing team for us at Intuit.
Sure. So I work closely with Ed in marketing to prepare and get these presentations ready for the webinars, and it's really a fun thing for me to get to work closely with someone like Terrence to see how he's configured his Salesforce instance. I learned something new every time I work with a customer with how they've chosen to configure their org to meet their specific business needs. So again, work with the sales team with onboarding new customers from one user companies to 50 plus users, so the full end of the spectrum.
And learning is really why we put these webinars together. I'm going to jump to the agenda. Every time we work with a customer, like Jen says, we learn something new about what Salesforce can do and how CRM can help some of our QuickBooks users and businesses out there. But given that you can do so much with CRM, this is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to ground everyone in what a consistent definition for CRM is. We'll take a look at the Intuit and Salesforce partnership before we dig into the product itself, Salesforce for QuickBooks. Second act for today will be the actual demos, and that's where I think we'll really get to some really interesting content. Terrence, how you guys use LeeAgra, you've got some great stories there, and we'll basically go story format. You know, how you use it in the business, and then what the product can do to support some of that activity. We'll also talk about how Salesforce and QuickBooks interact. So we'll cut to Jen at that point, and she'll talk to us about Salesforce and QuickBooks Data Sync. And finally, we'll close with some product detail and how you can reach out to us, and we can work with you if you're interested in jumping into a trial. So with that, let's talk about CRM a little bit. I'm willing to bet that if I were to ask everyone in the room again what they think a CRM is, you know, we've got roughly 30 people here today, we'd get at least 30 different definitions, if not more. And that's only because CRM is very broad, and it's intended to be. It's broad because you can customize it to suit very specific needs for a lot of customers. But so that we all have a working understanding, a CRM is a customer relationship management system, and it basically lets you manage relationships between data and customers. If we take that a little bit further, when I say customers, it's really contact information, accounts, leads, and sales opportunities. So that's more of a, I guess, funnel or sales terminology. If you have a sales team, that will be close to you. If you don't have one, it's likely that you use information in this sequence anyway, you're just not calling it that. One central location is key, because with Salesforce for QuickBooks, your data is in the cloud, which makes it much more accessible to your business and your teams. But really the big takeaway I want everyone to have as we go into the demos is CRM allows you to track your customer connections. And if you can track those connections and use them, they're just much more effective for the full business.
And that's exactly why I'm here, because we had a customer relationship with, you know, basically two people in the company, and they were, you know, accounting and finance, because they had all the data in QuickBooks, and our salespeople, even the CEO, marketing, nobody had access to this data very easily. We'd have to have a series of emails or phone calls and try to find, you know, track people down and try to make contact with our customers. But you know, we discovered a few months back we needed a CRM, a way to get at our QuickBooks data very quickly, and you know, be able to manage our relationships. So now instead of just, you know, customer relationships, we can manage it and track it, and we couldn't do that before.
Right, and the funny thing, Terrence, is I think a lot of folks, if you're new to what CRM can do for you, will tell you that, you know what, they have a process for that. They manage their connections. They're QuickBooks users, so they're accustomed to detail. What I think a lot of people don't see, at least at first glance, is just what that really means, right? So I'm putting up a quick diagram here that has marketing, sales, support, and orders in kind of quadrants, and there's usually a flow of data between all of those functions. If you think about all of the connections that need to be managed, right, you have all the customers relative to the business, and then all of those customer data really that needs to be shared within the business. You know, if you start thinking about how that data can be used, you've got kind of almost an exponential factor that you can apply to the number of connections that you need to manage and track and use. Really, that's what a CRM does, right? If you put how you manage your connections in the middle of all of this, all of a sudden it's all in one spot, and depending on the interaction, you can surface stuff between organizations, which makes your interaction with your customer that much richer, that much more productive. And given that we've got likely a number of QuickBooks users and people that maybe work in operations, if you think about the orders quadrant, this green quadrant that I'm highlighting here, there's a tremendous opportunity to actually leverage data that's already in QuickBooks and share it even more broadly across a business. I'm in marketing now, but I used to be in finance, and if I think about the number of times I had to interact with other organizations or other teams in the business that needed data for their specific job, just eliminating a lot of that day-to-day frees you up for a lot of other value-add activity.
Well, that actually describes us to a T. We were only doing the bottom right-hand quadrant because none of that data was being shared, and it is now.
Right, and Terrence, thank you for mentioning that. I think a lot of people see that. They don't really look at it as kind of the first benefit. Most people will say CRM, well, I thought I was going to talk about sales. It's a secondary benefit, but it's pretty huge.
Mm-hmm.
But if we talk about really why people tend to look at CRM, it's usually the increase in top line that they can realize if they start using it well. And what I'm showing everyone here is some survey data that comes from our Salesforce partners. They do a survey of all their Salesforce customers every year, and on average, they see about a 28% increase in sales. If I connect that value to some of the folks that are maybe QuickBooks users first or more familiar with QuickBooks versus sales processes, there's also another opportunity here in that your forecasting tends to get a lot tighter when you understand your pipeline and understand your sales process. With that, just some quick words on the partnership. So both Intuit and Salesforce have thought that there's opportunity within the QuickBooks space for CRM. So in 2011, we formed a partnership to actually resell Salesforce to our QuickBooks customers as an Intuit product. And I'll talk about that in a moment. That was also in response to a lot of our QuickBooks customers coming to us and telling us that they wanted products to better manage their top line, basically sales. So this is in direct response to what our customers have asked us for. The nuts and bolts here, we've got two use cases. If you have QuickBooks and you don't have Salesforce yet, what we've put together is a product that we're calling literally Salesforce for QuickBooks. And what this does is we take Salesforce Sales Cloud from Salesforce, which is the CRM offering. We add an integration app or connector to it so that you can connect your QuickBooks data to Salesforce. And you can buy Salesforce any integration app as a bundle together. Now, there's another use case out there where if you already have Salesforce, you already have QuickBooks, so you've already got the bookends, we can sell you the Salesforce integration application. So you can buy just the connector, essentially, and still make your data work in exactly the same functionality that we're going to describe today. And speaking of functionality, that gets us to just some very quick orientation before we jump into the demos. It is a cloud-based product. We've got a number of customers out there. In fact, I'll just take a quick snapshot. If you're a QuickBooks user, I'm curious what version of QuickBooks everyone is using. I'm going to guess that will be roughly even split between QuickBooks Online and maybe Enterprise and Pro Premier. Let's see what comes back. But Salesforce for QuickBooks will work with both hosted QuickBooks and online, even though it is a cloud product. So you will have to log in, and that really starts the experience. So I'm going to close the poll. We're at almost 80% voted. And if I share some results quickly, it looks like about half our customers are QuickBooks Enterprise, and maybe a third are on the desktop, and about almost 15% QuickBooks Online. So that's a more interesting distribution than we've seen before. But the takeaway here is it's in the cloud, and it will work with your hosted software if you're on a desktop. And it's also a good reminder to folks here, if you haven't yet, popping into a trial is really the best way to experience and understand what a CRM can do for you. We're going to walk through some use cases here that Terrence will share with us that are really, once you've got the data into the cloud, you can really see what it can drive for your business.
Yeah, one thing, Ed, the trial, we wanted to make sure that our data was safe, even though it's synced to the cloud, and it was very safe in that it didn't disrupt our QuickBooks data at all. We just saw how it merged really quickly with and filled in all the accounts and various forms of information in Salesforce. But it was the trial that convinced us to go ahead and make the leap because without the trial, the whole team couldn't see the power of Salesforce.
No, thank you for that, Terrence.
Mhm.
And then with that, some very last housekeeping, and we will get to the fun part. We'll get to demos. Once you've logged in, this is typically what you will see in Salesforce. You can configure your dashboard however you want, but what I really wanted to share with folks is the stock setup that's already out of the box is very logically oriented. If you've used Gmail, Google Portal, Facebook, any kind of online service, the navigation's not that different, right? You've got a home tab that it starts you on, that's in the upper left, and there's a horizontal nav across the top that lets you scroll through in approximate order of your workflow. So even if you haven't defined a process for yourself, chances are this is how you operate anyway with respect to sales and your online software. The other thing I would like to highlight is this is Salesforce CRM that you can purchase from Salesforce. It's exactly the same product. We add two things that make it unique to Intuit. You can sync your data, so we've got a QuickBooks Sync tab up there, and we've also got a QuickBooks Product tab that has a little more detail that you can work with. The second piece of housekeeping here is we've also got a vertical nav that you can configure, and again, this behaves very similarly to other online products. You can configure this. It's effectively a shortcut, sort of a navigation tool. But with that gets us really into the demo section. So Jen, if you don't mind popping into the LeeAgra, or excuse me, we're going to take a quick look at LeeAgra's history, and then we'll actually jump into the demos. Terrence, do you want to give us a little context for the business?
Sure. Well, in 1949, the company was founded by the current CEO's grandfather. His name was Dick Lee, and he ran the entire business out of his billfold, which means it was he and another man that were blacksmiths, and they repaired farm machinery. And anything he needed to pay, he paid out of his billfold. If he needed to pay employees or whatever, or buy equipment, he took out cash out of his billfold and paid for it. If he made a business agreement, it was done on the back of a piece of paper, and that went in his billfold. So everything was run out of his billfold, and became the way they did business for many years. And then in the 70s and early 80s, the company was transitioned to his son, Sonny Lee, and they decided that they were really, really kind of trying to branch out. Instead of just being a blacksmith shop, what they wanted to do was provide farmers with products that they didn't have to repair. So they made a series of products like one, the Boss Quick Hitch, which is instead of using cast iron, use plate metal, so that they didn't have to come back with these repairs. And that went into every piece of equipment they made, was trying to be the highest quality so that they didn't have to come back. They didn't have to get it repaired anywhere. It just lasted basically forever. So they branched out from small pieces of machinery to diesel fuel trailers, and then eventually to what they call their high clearance tractors. And the high clearance tractors were, something that really was something that they really didn't foresee themselves doing, but it was just a farm necessity. Farmers kept asking, "Can you make these things?" So they kept, doing all these things, but it really didn't have a way of maintaining and marketing and everything like that in a kind of a robust fashion. Then in 2009, the company was transitioned to the current CEO, or the grandson, Lindley. And he wanted the company to be, instead of a local, kind of a regional company, into a global company. And we make the diesel trailers, we sell them all across the U.S. The high clearance tractors, we sell all those across, all over the world. But believe it or not, we still kind of had the same methodologies that we founded the company on, which is basically ran it out of a billfold. We had all of our data in QuickBooks, that kind of thing. And a few months ago, we decided that, after a lot of analysis, that we just cannot do that anymore. We needed to share that data with the entire company, have better communications, and really get, expedite the sales process. And that's why we went with Salesforce CRM.
Yeah, thanks for that, Terrence. And if we could actually just segue, because you mentioned why maybe some of the difficulties that you guys were experiencing really pointed you in the direction of CRM. We've got a couple of indicators here that you guys are a fairly large business relative to our QuickBooks base, but really these themes are constant for any business that's looking to manage their processes a little bit better and share data. We thought you guys were right for CRM because, one, you sell specialized equipment, you want to track that information. Two, you're also a business-to-business organization, and your sales are really to sort of multi-tier, right? You sell to headquarters folks and you sell to dealers. So if you're a business that transacts with another business, chances are you really want to keep a handle on that information. Another component here is you've got 4 salespeople that generate your $4.5 million in sales, which I find amazing because the amount of coverage that your sales reps have, the number of deals that they need to transact, right, to cover the whole country, these are big deals.
Yep.
A trailer load, as I think you call them, Terrence, takes about 3 months to negotiate.
Sure.
And maybe about $25,000 a pop.
That's right.
And obviously when you're transacting at that level, but you know what, this could be at a smaller organization as well. QuickBooks data, understanding the financial status of your customer is a pretty big deal.
That's right, and none of that data was being shared before, and we found ourselves doing a lot of heavy lifting, trying to make these sales. Salesmen were basically storing their data on either the cell phone in one form or spreadsheets, contact lists, that kind of thing. And each salesperson, had a different way of making these spreadsheets, and no way to communicate to marketing or production. So and then the data would come back if like say Jerry was spelled instead of with a J with a G, then nobody knew the sale was on because it was a misspelling, and we couldn't figure that out. We had no way of tracking that down. So
right, and
so
with that, I think we're already getting into some of Terrence's stories. As everyone can hear, he's got a lot of kind of business use cases for CRM. We're going to outline some here today, and we'll probably cover most, if not all of them, but actually I'll just cut to the quick here. Everyone on this call has been on a sales or a staff meeting where you've had to talk about data. Terrence, I think a lot of your report stories will help illustrate how CRM can really work for you. If you have a sales team that is trying to transact real time, we've got some great content from Terrence around how reps can use Salesforce in the field. We can also talk a little bit about how you can get visibility into your funnel and use Chatter to collaborate. So, Terrence, I think you've got some material around if you've got a really hot lead that you really want to make happen, how do you use CRM to interact with each other on the team side? We can talk a little bit about sales automation. And lastly, and maybe of most interest to a lot of our customers on this call, we'll talk about why you chose Salesforce and how the data interacts with QuickBooks.
Great.
So with that, I think we can just cut to Jen, your screen. Great.
Well, it just I know we may not get into it, but the Chatter feature has just revolutionized the way we've done business for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just going in the order of how Ed discussed those bullet points, I want to start with how this tool's changed your reporting, your meetings, the efficiency of those meetings, and the power that you've gotten from gathering this intelligence out of organically, essentially. It just happened as your users use the tool.
Absolutely. Well, the way this whole thing started with the CRM was my attending the sales meetings consistently every Monday morning. What I found was, 8:30 every Monday, they'd gather almost the entire sales team, well, the entire sales team, but almost the entire company would come in on these sales meetings. And what we would have is, unfortunately, was a review of what happened last week. And they would talk about what happened in production, and they would talk about what happened in the sales, flow or whatever. And it would basically be, well, I sold this thing on Tuesday, and then it went over to production by Thursday, and then I drove around and I talked to this person, and then I talked to that person, and I made this sale and that kind of thing. And that was good. It's good to do a review, but each person would talk for about 20 minutes, and then at the end of the meeting, it was the most unfortunate thing. At the end of the meeting, it was like we were on a huge basketball team, and everybody would have a ball, and they'd go off and dribble off into the sunset, and then the only information we shared was the next Monday at 8:30. Again, what happened? Well, I thought that was really unfortunate for the CEO to wonder what his salesmen were doing, what production was doing. So I said there's got to be a way to coalesce this data in real time so that the CEO can know, and the sales manager can know Tuesday afternoon what anybody was doing or how the company was doing. So we don't have these critical errors that happen on Monday, because I guess what happened to us a couple of times was the salesman would come in on Monday and say, we didn't sell anything because these sales take such a long time. Well, that needed to end. We needed to know on Tuesday afternoon if we weren't going to sell anything that week. We needed to make a correction. We needed to do something. We needed to market. We needed to call. We need to figure out a way to sort of flatline the sales revenue by week so that it can start being predictable. The CFO, as soon as the sales meeting went, the CFO would just wonder, gosh, where are the sales going to come from? So what we put together was all the information went into Salesforce, and then we put together what I like to call the revenue snapshot. It tells you where we were in the year, what we're doing by month, and so we can kind of track and see what we did by week. Then we want to look at the weekly sales, and this is sort of a point of pride for the salesman. If he has a really good week, like Craig Jones had a really good week, well, then it's highlighted there for about a month, and then after about a month, the sale that week goes away, but you get to see what's happening this week. And then he gets to brag on it for a little while, but then it's always in sales, what did you do for me lately? Now, another point of another problem we had was discussions of what's coming down the pipeline as far as sales in communication with production. If we were working on a huge sale, say 10 trailers or something, there's no way production would know. We didn't have any communication to him, and then all of a sudden we would drop it on him, hey, we sold 10 trailers. Well, he may not have ordered any metal, or we may not have enough paint or enough axles or whatever it takes to make these things. So they would have to order these things after the sale was made. Here in the product pipeline report, we've got everything we're working on with a percentage basis from 75 to 90%, and those sales are now tracked so that we can say, hey, we're getting pretty close to selling 10. Maybe it's time to order these trailers. Maybe it's time to order the paint or the metal or whatever we need to do. So production is always kept in the loop as far as sales is concerned. So we've increased efficiency across the board with the CEO knowing what sales is doing, production knows what sales is doing, and then not to mention there are a couple more that we really enjoy. The revenue by month. But the cumulative revenue by month at the bottom is where we make our forecast for the year. How is that? Are we on target for where we were in the year? This has increased our efficiency incredibly because the office administrator used to have to do a huge spreadsheet, an enormous spreadsheet to figure out all these factors to go into that revenue at that point, and it took her like 2 hours to make sure all the data was correct and that kind of thing. And then she'd come in with the sales meeting and present it for about 1 second, and everybody go, thank you, and it wasn't worth it for her to spend 2 hours. Now, if all the data is entered correctly, you can look at this chart in real time. She doesn't have to do anything. As long as the data is entered correctly by the salesman and the orders are placed, then the CEO can at midnight, at any evening or whatever, look at all these charts and predict what he's going to do the next day or week, and we can plan out better than we ever have before. So sales meetings are transformed by Salesforce.
Yeah, and when you say to look at it at night, I also wanted to highlight the mobile application that the free app that comes when you get Salesforce, that you can check any of those dashboards on any of your smartphone or tablet, etc.
What I really love about that story, Terrence, is there's kind of a universal theme that you're touching on, regardless of whether you're the business owner or the person that has to do the presentation or the report out. There's just a general anxiety around if you don't know, what can you do, right?
Right.
And a lot of that meeting dynamic that you just described was very backwards looking, and it sounds like you guys have transitioned pretty solidly into looking forward and making decisions. It's
no longer a review in the sales meeting. Now it's planning and strategy.
That's awesome.
And then building off of that, I wanted you to speak to how you guys are using Chatter, what it does, what it's done for you, what these different groups mean, and how you're using this collaboration piece.
Well, one thing the CEO explained to me, it was, this is from the beginning of the company, is we would wait by the phone. And when the phone rang, we'd answer it, and we'd say, hello, this is formerly West Texas Lee. And then the person would get their questions answered. We'd hang up the phone and hope that they called back. The way it is now, when we get a web lead, now, and then even a web lead, it would we'd email the person, send them a catalog or whatever, and that would be that. Now we get a lead of any type, a phone call, web lead, email, something like that. We actually discuss it in our groups within leads. Like, what are we going to do with this person? This person has called us. They want to know more about our products. They want to know, something detailed. So now we can follow up. I understand that, hey, this lead that we've placed in Salesforce needs to be attended to. Did anybody respond? So now there's follow-up. Now we can have accountability. Like, hey, this person followed up with them. Did we send them a catalog? Did we send them an email? This kind of thing. And we can discuss maybe strategy. Maybe they wanted something that we couldn't offer them, like they wanted a movie of one of our particular products. We hadn't made the movie yet. And we can go out there with a cell phone, make the movie, send them a picture or something like that. But that's all tracked in Salesforce like it never was before. A lot of times I wouldn't even know that these emails or phone calls were coming in, and now we do. Now it's a team-based approach for our leads and anything we need to know in Salesforce. It's all hands on deck. As soon as this piece of information comes in, everybody gets to collaborate.
What I love about this, Terrence, is that it's all hands on deck. It's real time. It's like a hallway conversation that you have with someone. But it's also on record so that you can go back and find it, right? It's a lot of times that 30-second conversation is worth so much, and then it's worth even more when you get further into that transaction with a customer, potentially.
You're always, in sales, you're always on stage. You're always trying to be your best. And you never know when a 30-second conversation with somebody is going to lead to the biggest sale of the year and a lifelong customer. So if we can keep those and track them and go back to them and then convert those leads to accounts and really develop a relationship, not just with the salesperson trying to keep that on his phone, but the account, the office administrator or the salesperson or the marketing or the CEO or anybody can jump in and help this customer and the relationship with our company. So no longer are our customers kind of a question mark or hidden, that kind of thing. It's all hands on deck. It's a team-based approach, and we just can't live without it anymore. There's no way.
Yeah, and that's a good lead into what the accounts look like. So what information is being captured, and I also want to point out that this information for your existing customers, anyone who is in QuickBooks, when you run the sync, that's going to come over. So you're not doing any data migration or having to clean up any data. It's all going to come over into Salesforce, and the layout looks similar to this. Terrence and LeeAgra have customized a lot of these fields to capture the information that's relevant to them.
No, that was a strong point you made there, Jen. They told me specifically we do not, the sales manager, nobody wanted to recreate the entire database in QuickBooks. They said that is out. If we have to do that, we're not going to. So I tried to find a way to get the QuickBooks data into a CRM, and the best one was the integrator that QuickBooks offers to integrate with Salesforce. That was the best way I found to integrate the database, so we didn't have to recreate it. It was like all of a sudden, all of our contact and customer information was in Salesforce, and everybody hit the ground running. So there wasn't a recreation of all the data at all.
That's great. Yeah, it's a really good point to make. And then, so having your customers in here, can you talk through how your sales reps use this information for maybe past customers or someone you haven't done business in a while with, and how you're using the management of those customers through Salesforce?
Well, with Salesforce, you can track and log your calls and log your emails. You can send emails from Salesforce. So what we do is we create reports. Like, when was the last time we talked to this customer? Was it 6 months ago? We've actually had discussions on how soon after a sale would you like to make another sale? So now we can track, like, do we call them 3 months later, 4 months later? Those weren't discussions that we had before. It was left up to the salespeople's discretion to just figure out where their sales were going to come from. Well, that's leaving a lot to chance, leaving a lot to the top of their heads, memories, little scraps of paper, that kind of thing, or a calendar in Google Calendar or something like this. It wasn't monitored, it wasn't tracked. Now everybody gets on board. If they say, hey, 3 months from now, I want to send this person a follow-up email saying, hey, how do you like the products? You can set up a task 3 months in the future, and Salesforce will remind you and say, oh, send this person an email. It's been 3 months, and you can really follow up on all of your customers in this fashion. You can send them a reminder saying, or send them a keep in touch notice, like say, I just wanted to keep in touch, haven't talked in a while, this kind of thing. So we track all this data now. We use reports extensively for this. So reporting features are excellent, and the managing our accounts and having everybody manage the accounts is a really great way to do it. That we never did before.
Like I lost a little bit of connection here. I apologize.
That's fine. But converting, here's another thing, is when you have a lead that we, hey, this person's interested in becoming a dealer. Instantly, it creates, once you put that in as a lead, anybody can put it in as a lead. Once you convert it, there's a button that you hit, and it says convert to an account and an opportunity at the same time. So not only are we converted into an account that we communicate with, but you create an opportunity.
I had to hardwire in. Well, goodness.
That's okay. Take your time, Jen. Folks, this is Terrence. We're actually covering quite a bit of ground with
Sure.
the business cases and the tools portion that Jen is walking us through. We can actually still have some of this conversation while Jen gets back online. We've covered quite a bit, right? So we opened with the sales meetings and how you can really get a snapshot of the business using reports and dashboards.
Right.
You talked a little bit about the funnel and chatter and how you can collaborate. You kind of touched on some sales automation. We kind of went into QuickBooks data. There's a great anecdote that you had shared with us around the dealer drive-bys and how they needed to find the right people.
Oh, dealer drive-bys are huge. These poor sales reps, they wear out vehicles very quickly. They put many miles on their cars because In the agricultural business, it's hard to do a sale online. They want to shake your hand. They want to look you in the eye. They want to, get a feel for how you're doing business, because there's quite a few of us out there doing this, basically the same thing. We're all, trying to sell and that kind of thing. So they'd rather meet you, go to lunch, something like that. So the sales reps would drive by a lot of dealerships, and if they didn't have exactly who they needed to talk to and every single stop prepared way in advance on their spreadsheets, then they had wasted a lot of time. And if they had prepared in advance, then they just kind of either drove by the business, or didn't make the contact, or they went in and the person wasn't there, that kind of thing. In the way it is now, they can, in the parking lot, uh, figure out what did I say to the sales manager at this dealership last time? That's right here, and figure out his name, because you're using a mobile platform, Salesforce Classic, and you can review all that data right before you go in. You can review what the last customer interaction was. You can review if there were any cases that something like we needed to repair something. You can review any of that information that's tracked in Salesforce. So when you can review if the dealer owes our company money. So before he goes in, he can review very quickly on his mobile platform all the data he needs to make a very knowledgeable presentation to the dealer. And he doesn't have to plan for it. He can do that right on his phone right before he walks into the place. So everything every way you interact with a company is stored in Salesforce. Not to mention, while they're driving around, sometimes they find companies that spring up that all of a sudden there wasn't on their route 3 months ago. Now there's a new dealership out in the middle of nowhere that they sell all kinds of tractors, and so they say, "Wait, I've never heard of this person. They're not in the marketing. They're not on the web. They're not anything. They just sprang up. I'd like to go talk to them." So the way it was in the past, the salesperson would kind of go in there, look around, try to find somebody to talk to. If they found a person, it probably wasn't the right person to talk to. And if they did find somebody who was worth talking to in the dealership, they might actually be talking to the one of, say, 30 dealerships around the state or something that they never knew. And the way we do it now is, if he finds a dealership that he'd prefer to talk to, he can contact us in the home office or admin or marketing or whatever, and we can look it up, and we can find the data like on data.com as part of Salesforce, and we can fill in all the information he's going to need to make to shortcut to find out who the decision maker is, so that maybe he doesn't talk to somebody for an hour wasting his time and their time. He cuts right to the chase, finds the decision maker, plans out his sales strategy, goes in there with knowledge and confidence, knowing he's talking to the right person, and it's all because we were able to help him right there on the road. As soon as we fill in all that data, it appears on his phone. So the way it was before, it was just potluck, whatever he could do to get in there and maybe talk to the right person, and then he would waste days, weeks maybe, trying to find the right person to talk to. Now we cut to the chase and ID the decision makers right on the phone. So this has changed the way we do business dramatically. It's no longer a guessing game when it comes to leads or drive-bys. So really proud of the way we handle this stuff.
Yeah, and what I want to do now that we're back on is show how, it's clear how powerful the tool it is as a CRM, but I want to demonstrate how it works with QuickBooks. Okay. So as Terrence mentioned, he got into the trial, he set up his data to sync, and the first time it synced, it brought over all of his customers into Salesforce as accounts. So that account layout you were seeing, that all information came from QuickBooks. And then the items, your product list, whether it's products or services, I know we have a lot of services folks on the call, those come over into Salesforce as products. So you can use that to build out an invoice or an estimate or a sales order directly out of Salesforce if you want. These other sections here, you can choose to sync those. from QuickBooks into Salesforce. You can also choose to turn this switch on and sync them from Salesforce into QuickBooks. So quickly, just to demonstrate what that looks like, I know Terrence has, they've set up some, you guys have set up some invoice templates.
Mm-hmm.
So you create the opportunity here, add your products, which again, all came from QuickBooks. You don't have to recreate any of the product list or pricing information. And then from there, turn that into a quote and make it a PDF that sends out directly from Salesforce. So yeah, cut out the middleman. It automatically populates the owner's information here. So all just in one tool, one system. And then this information syncs back into QuickBooks, updates your inventory levels. And so, again, accounting and sales are all on the same page. All the information is stored here. You never have to go hunt that PDF down. It exists right here on the record. So you can have a full list of all of those invoices or estimates that you put together over the lifetime of that particular customer.
Not to mention that the quoting feature that's part of our sales automation. The way it was in the past is if the salesman got lucky and figured out who to talk to, and then he found the decision maker, the decision maker always would say when he says, "Hey, send me a quote," that was a hint for the salesperson to get out of it. You know, it's like, well, you know what, I'm kind of weary about making a sale or whatever. Send me a quote. That was a way for him to say, I don't want to make a decision right now. Well, as we all know, in sales, if you can put the decision back on the person right then, that accelerates the sales process. So what used to happen was the salesperson would say, yeah, send me a quote. Well, the salesperson would have to leave, call into the home office, go to QuickBooks. The person at the home office would have to stop whatever they were doing, process a quote, then get it back, mail it back to the salesperson. The salesman would have to forward that back, and that could take 1 or 2 days because of the way business operates. Now we can make a quote right from the phone, right from our mobile platform. We can make them a quote, send it to them, and say, now, as they're sitting in the sales meeting. So in the sales meeting, we can make a quote and say, hey, here's the quote you wanted. I just made it in 1 second. Now what? So it really has increased our sales efficiency tremendously. No longer are the days of leaving and hoping the person remembers us, that kind of thing. Nope, we put the decision maker to a decision right there.
Yep, and I think you've done some stuff too with the email templates. So from there, we'll just do this one just for that it automatically, populates the first name, brings in your signature, and then you can modify the copy here again. Yeah, a lot of just automation, essentially.
That's right. Well, speaking of automation, once the sale is made, they send it over to Chatter, and they celebrate, and everybody gets to give the person an attaboy, and say, hey, we made the sale, this kind of thing, and yeah, oh, look, we got a new stocking dealer, look at that, it's great, and we all celebrate and give them a thumbs up, this kind of thing. Never used to happen before. If he made the sale out in the middle of nowhere, you'd have to call it in, and nobody knew really that we had a new stocking dealer immediately. So now we all know instantaneously. But the most important thing is production was notified late. They would get a new stocking dealer. They'd have to put it into QuickBooks. It'd have to be stored. It would have to be managed and verified and this kind of thing. A lot of signatures had to happen. Now, when they make a sale, instantly using what we call what is called the big deal alert, the sale is sent to production immediately. They're notified that second. So say we close the shop at say 4:30. At 4:25, if we get a sale in, instead of the production being notified 1 or 2 days later about some sale that we made, they're notified at that second. The chief of operations can spend the next 5 minutes figuring out if he has enough product, has enough metal, has enough whatever, to do the next day's production cycle. So he can make critical decisions immediately rather than having to wait and get a series of emails, that kind of thing. We're notified days in advance. The customer gets his product way more quickly than he ever would. And then once we've made the sale, we have a group called Order Shipping Now. The shipping manager notifies the entire company that an order has shipped. So we've really increased our sales automation tremendously that we never did before.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Folks, just a quick highlight. We're getting kind of towards the home stretch here. There's a little bit of background noise. If someone's on full audio, if you could please mute your line. Thank you. Terrence, what I really love about this is you're walking us through some fairly detailed interaction between Salesforce data and QuickBooks. Mm-hmm. Jen, you're showing us, or you have been showing us, the QuickBooks and Salesforce sync panel. What I'd like to highlight to folks here is just because we typically have business owners on the call, we've got sales and marketing on the call, we've also got finance and accounting folks on the call. We usually get questions around, well, you know, I want people to interact with the data. I want to make sure that they can get at the information in QuickBooks, but I also want to maintain the data integrity of the file since it's primarily used for financial purposes. What I want to highlight here is that's exactly why this panel, this sync settings display exists. So the flow that Terrence and Jen walked us through, that's something that they wanted to set up for LeeAgra. If you don't want your sales team or other teams to be able to either see or write back to a QuickBooks file, that's entirely up to how you want to set it up. So the whole premise of software, CRM in the cloud, and Salesforce is you make it fit what processes you've got and how you want it to work for your business, and that extends into how it interacts, how Salesforce interacts with QuickBooks.
Great. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and turn it back to you, Ed, so we can wrap things up.
Okay. I'll take back control, share my screen, and that's a great jumping off point to just land us back at product and contact information. And folks, you should see two tables pop up in front of you. Probably the top of the call, I mentioned two use cases, right? We can basically bundle Salesforce for QuickBooks CRM with the integrator, with the connector together, and that's the table on the left-hand side. So if you only have QuickBooks and are looking to use Salesforce for the first time, that's the best option for you. The pricing that we're showing here is by edition, and we have a lot of information on our website on the differences between the editions. There are three big differences, really. One will be the number of users. Group edition is capped at 5, and that's consistent with how Salesforce has the product set up on their side as well. There's also some functionality that you gain with Professional Edition. So if you step up to Pro, you can have more users. You can also customize your dashboards. So a lot of those snapshots that we were looking at with Terrence, those were set up uniquely for LeeAgra. And Terrence, I think you probably could have made do with the stock views, but I think you're getting some pretty significant value from what you've got set up right now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So those are really the big pieces. And then if you're on Professional Edition and your business grows, we do offer Enterprise, but not out of the gate. That's a strictly upgrade opportunity for some of our customers that we know will be successful with a more complicated CRM. So on the Intuit side, we're really looking to find the right CRM that fits the right business, and this is basically our low, medium, high, if I were to really boil it down. We do have free trials on Group Edition. It's 14 days, and we've got free trials for Professional Edition. It's 30 days. So again, I'd encourage everyone to pop into a trial just to see what you can do with CRM for your business.
Well, you know, that's great. And we did the entire gamut. We ran a trial edition, and then we went to the group edition with 5 people, started there, and put a few more actually on Chatter because the Chatter is free. You can put as many as you want on Chatter, but then we found we needed the features of Professional, and we were bursting at the seams with the group, so we went to professional, and now we're kind of bursting at the seams with professional. We might, boost up to enterprise.
And Terrence, that's a great piece of advice for a lot of folks. So choosing a second major software platform is not something that people should take lightly. And I think your approach was probably very thoughtful and very need-driven, which is why I think you've been very successful with this. So folks on the call, if you're considering CRM, I think that approach is really what all of our specialists recommend. Find what's right for you, check it out, kick the tires, and if you outgrow it, that's exactly why we have several tiers of offerings here. The second piece that I'd like to highlight is if you need the integrator. So if you already have Salesforce and you just want to connect it to your QuickBooks data, that's the table on the right-hand side. The pricing here is slightly different. In that one, we don't offer a trial just because you're already familiar with Salesforce and QuickBooks, so there's really no trial experience needed. And if you're a Salesforce user, you already know your edition and the functionality that you're at typically. So we just price the connector based on the level of Salesforce edition that you've got. So if you have group edition from Salesforce already, that's $25 a month for your company. If you've got Pro, it's $45. If you've got Enterprise, it's $65. And again, that's on a per company basis. Just a quick highlight on the table on the left, that's going to be $28, $70, and $135 per user per month. So just a slight difference in how those business models work. But really, beyond letting everyone know that Salesforce for QuickBooks syncs with QBO, syncs with QuickBooks Enterprise, syncs with QuickBooks Pro and Premier from 2011 and newer, that's sort of the gamut of most of the typical questions that we get. Let's see if there's anything really burning on the questions list while we've got a little more time.
Well, one question was that I saw was, do you need to have basically as many people on QuickBooks on Salesforce? Well, we only had 2 people using QuickBooks, and that was the problem. We had 2 people using the QuickBooks Enterprise Edition. We have QB 13, and we needed the entire company to start using that QuickBooks data. Well, the way we figured out how to do it was using the QuickBooks integrated with Salesforce. Now everybody has access to the data and can create reports and everything, and it was really, really an excellent way of sharing that data.
No, that's a great call out, Terrence. And a lot of times, you may need more people to have access to very specific elements of your QuickBooks data and not the full file. So while I wouldn't encourage someone to buy CRM just for that, that is a benefit that does come with picking up Salesforce for QuickBooks and the integration to QuickBooks. But Terrence, beyond just the questions that we've got here, which we are answering as we speak, do you have any maybe parting thoughts for someone that might be considering a CRM or considering Salesforce for QuickBooks specifically?
Well, one of the things that besides the team-based approach and chat with all these powerful features was that as far as the person using it, what we found worked for our company was finding someone who was the main purchaser, and that was our CEO. He was the person that could convince the entire company this is what we're going to do, and then have a shepherd, somebody that can go through Salesforce, figure out all the ins and outs, figure out all the little details you can, and that was me. And together, he and I have just been, high-fiving each other and all the things we can do. So that's if you really have, one person who's the decision maker and then another person who's the kind of the shepherd of Salesforce, that can really be a powerful way of using this, and collaborating, because it really cuts down on the time that you have to do a lot of the work. So that's one of the key elements to our success in Salesforce was having a division of labor in this. I didn't make the decision to get it. I recommended it, and then the decision maker, he made the decision. But then after that, it was me going forward and figuring out how to make it worthwhile for everybody, and we really have. So.
Actually, no, that's a great piece of advice, because this is certainly not an undertaking that you want to go on by yourself.
Yep.
in my view, just having used new tools, when you're going to make a fairly significant decision for your business, really you should involve, like you said, a decision maker, an advocate, or a champion for the new thing that you want to try. And ideally, you even pick up some folks that you don't think will be primary users, but maybe influencers.
That's right.
I think our population today is probably a pretty good representation of that. We'll have business owners, we'll have marketers, salespeople, and lastly but not least, folks in the finance world should also be brought on board, because as QuickBooks domain experts, they're responsible for some fiduciary elements that are very technical, very detailed, and you want to make sure that that process stays consistent, while at the same time unlocking the value that's in that data for everyone else.
Absolutely. Oh, and you know what? One thing that was the thing about Chatter is about, you talk about finance people, is a lot of time they can't discuss the financial problems with the company or whatever, unless it's behind closed doors, because they're very private meetings, that kind of thing. Well, we set up a group for our financial discussions so that the CFO can finally express some of her concerns with various accounts and really get to talk to the people they want in private, in Chatter. It's like Facebook for business, the Chatter is. And our discussions are all private. You can't. We can have very healthy discussions, but no one else can be in or privy to them. Certainly not the entire company or customers or whatever privy to them. But she's discussing things that were very important that she never could discuss before. And that's been very important for her to do, and she really didn't have a way of doing it before without, losing emails and really not maintaining a discussion. So Chatter's really helped us, keep our finances on track for sure.
Right. So with that, Terrence, thank you very much for your time. You've been a great customer for us to interview and work with. Jen, thank you for your time and sharing out the demonstrations. Incidentally, those were all live and conducted in LeeAgra's actual instance of Salesforce. So, Terrence, thanks for letting us use your product and how you set it up as the demo. And to our potential customers and current QuickBooks customers that are out there, thanks for your attention as well. I know 60 minutes out of the day for a business owner or someone working in a smaller business is very valuable. So I hope you learned something that you can take back to your teams. And again, actually, I'm going to kick out a very quick poll here, just because whenever we do webinars, we do generate quite a bit of volume with our sales team. If you're interested in receiving a call fairly soon, I'd say within the next day, I just put a quick poll out there. Just let me know via the poll that's out, and we can get you basically to the front of the line with our account executives. Just to make sure that your questions are answered, and if you've got maybe a more urgent need to actually talk about something that's related to CRM. And it looks like more than 50% of folks are actually interested in a call back, so thank you for that. And we've got another webinar programmed in December, so if you guys are still interested then, we'll talk. And we've also got some learning demos that we're going to be setting up over the course of the next couple months. So if you're in trial, watch for those announcements. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.